Te Tiriti o Waitangi. Kia ora, ko Lillian Hanly ahau, anei te pūrongo tōranga pū mo tēnei wiki. Welcome to Focus on Politics. The 6th of February, Waitangi Day, where thousands of people make the trip north each year.
What brings you guys to Waitangi today?
The joy of the occasion and also Te Tiriti, and I think there's a real groundswell here of people who want unity between races.
The sense of being together and the opportunity to try and mend the wrongs.
Growing up with a disconnection of who I was, I don't want my kids going through that.
This year, I think it's just with what's been happening with the government.
I always have felt every single New Zealander should come to Waitangi at least once in their lifetime.
Manaakitanga. Oranga tonutanga. O tātene tamariki mokopuna.
Many experience the dawn ceremony for the first time this year.
First time at Waitangi.
What do you think?
Marvellous.
Beautiful.
Beautiful.
Checking it out for the first time.
First time?
Yeah.
What did you think of this morning?
Pretty boring. Yeah.
Boring, yeah.
My first time, I thought it was going to be a good experience, but not really.
Takes too long.
Yeah.
Listening.
It was pretty cold too.
What did you think of this morning? How did it feel?
It's definitely new to me, but it felt good because I felt like I was reconnecting with my Māori culture.
I wanted to come this year because, especially when I saw Hana Rafiti, she was all over TikTok, but it kind of sparked my nationalism. I thought, I could have come this year, I really do.
It was the first time for this Auckland couple too, who arrived a little late.
So we were in the other park and we got onto the bus. Somebody let us in because we joined the queue in the wrong place, and they said, just get in. And then somebody shuttled us up from the bridge, and it was just so good. It's manaakitanga, isn't it? That's what they talk about.
And that manaakitanga begins well before the National Day. Earlier that week, around 1,000 people descended on Te Tiriti o Waitangi marae to celebrate its reopening. What followed was days of events, discussions, meetings, commemorations and challenges.
I'm here to celebrate the whare and do the many things that Waitangi will always be the place of conversation.
Longtime activist and artist Te Tiriti has been coming to Waitangi for years.
I've been here since 1972. I arrived here in 72 because I saw the first protest in 1971, where Ngā Tamatoa burning the flag. And I thought, that's a great idea.
Often those conversations happen in the forum tent, which hosts multiple panel discussions on things like mana motuhake and constitutional change throughout the week.
I know we've got a mean and beautiful day for you fellas. It is a day of wānanga, reflection, and a few laughs. I heard yesterday the tent was a bit serious, whānau, and although the forum tent is it has inspired activists, mai rano, but it's inspired every other person across Aotearoa that's ever stepped foot into a forum tent. It may look a bit different, as it usually did in its first humble days. It's a bit flashy now, but that's indicative of the people who we are and how amazing we are as well.
Ngāpuhi host pōwhiri after pōwhiri at the Upper Treaty Grounds. High Court judges and the Waitangi Tribunal were welcomed, at a time when ACT and New Zealand First have both been vocal about the tribunal overstepping their jurisdiction. Chief Justice Dame Helen Winkelman spoke of its importance.
It was a place in which people could come and tell the history and have it recorded, have it accurately recorded, and it started to weave, to use Joe Williams' metaphor, to weave back into the public mind that understanding.
The Māori Queen, Ngā Waihono i te Pō, made her way onto Te Wharerunanga as well, the first time without her late father. Te Pāti Māori joined her after recommitting to establishing a parliamentary commissioner for Te Tiriti.
Wanting to give this commissioner some teeth, and what it does is it becomes the arbiter for anything when it comes to legislation being created. It will ensure that Te Tiriti o Waitangi is concreted into everything that we do.
Their party didn't join the parliamentary pōwhiri.
Well, it's not a separation. This is a continued unification of te iwi Māori. And so te iwi Māori must be political. Te iwi Māori must be also its cultural voice. It also must be its social voice. And so you can't say, oh, well, you're the political, you go over there. We don't do things like that. We are te iwi Māori, e ngunguru nei au eha.
The Waitangi National Trust was in discussions with Ngāpuhi about maintaining tikanga on the marae for the politicians' arrival. Chief Executive of the Trust, Ben Dalton, says his job is to make sure everyone is safe and able to participate.
Any political party is welcome here. There was talk about telling people they can't come. We're not doing that. And the same thing goes for the activation as well. That is part of the democratic political process, and people want to voice their opposition to the policies of some of the parties that are coming. That's democracy. How is the voice of unhappiness that is pretty apparent through a lot of the people that are here today, how is that heard, but the sanctity of tikanga is maintained?
Things were tense as the politicians gathered. Toitu Te Tiriti protesters also making their voices heard right at the start before making their point by walking away.
Your own people told you not to come, and you did not listen. Here you are. I hope that one day you find it in yourself to love being Māori and to love being Ngāpuhi. The day that you start to love yourself is the day that being Māori will also start to love you.
And then the pōwhiri began.
Toi tū ko te tiriti, toi tū ko te hakaputanga, toi tū ko te whenua, toi tū ko te taio. E whakatau ake nei a koutou, me te whakatū pato atu, ki ngā tuahuatanga e kōkiritia nei e koutou.
Minister for Māori Crown Relations, Tama Potaka, stood first. He was leading the government delegation and had been in Northland all week. He responded to criticism that he is a kupapa or traitor.
Ki mai e te, Tama Potaka, he kupapa koe. Ko tāku ki a koutou, ai, e kupapa ana au ki te ti Waitangi marae. E kupapa pa ana au ki a Ngāti Rehia ki Kororipo.
David Seymour spoke next.
Some who heard my words were here and they understood them, but for 2 years they've tried to pretend that they didn't. Instead, they've poured poison in the ears of the young people. They've said that I and my legislation want to take away their mana, their reo and their culture. Some of the poison is so ridiculous it becomes quite funny.
At that point, some members from the Hau Kāinga stood and turned their backs. As David Seymour continued, the microphone was moved away by Ngāti Wai leader Āperehama Edwards.
Kia orete ai te ahe atu o
He later explains why.
It's no surprise that our people are hurting, and I think the shame of the policies being advanced that deliberately attack Māori rights, that deliberately deny and suppress tino rangatiratanga, have caused deep-seated angst and pain. And so it was expected that those sentiments be relayed in the pōwhiri.
David Seymour's response?
Well, you can take away my microphone, but you can't take away an idea.
New Zealand First MP Shane Jones called it a cheap stunt.
There's something seriously awry about the architecture of the whole day. And this is something that I'm taking to our caucus and to identify in what way can we ensure that future pōhiri don't turn into a circus.
Ngāpuhi leader Waihoroi Shortland returned the mic to David Seymour during the pōwhiri, saying it wasn't necessary to silence him.
It was enough for him to get a message that what he had to say was of no significance to the people who were here. We'd already sent a strong message by turning our backs on him.
But he added you can't have a circus without the clowns.
From that side it may very well have looked like a circus, but it was an effective circus. In essence it was effective because it sent a message on the other side.
Deputy Prime Minister Winston Peters says he wasn't surprised by the actions.
However, it's not part of our tikanga, it's not part of our traditions. It's the first time I've ever seen that behaviour like that.
provoked or otherwise, it's still not acceptable.
But Labour leader Chris Hipkins and the Greens co-leader Marama Davidson think it's justified.
He came here clearly to try and provoke a reaction, and he got a reaction. It's not the sort of thing I think responsible political leaders do. He set out right from the beginning of his speech to be inflammatory, and he was.
They turned their backs. The microphone was removed from politicians who are putting out that harmful, hateful, racist rhetoric. They are sending a clear message: we are better than that.
Shane Jones, though, says it's an indictment, going so far as to threaten funding for the Waitangi National Trust.
What is the point of supporting the infrastructure here at this site if we're going to have a circus take place on the very site? I just gave them $10 million. So if you want to take the money, you take the responsibility of looking after your manuhiri.
National's Paul Goldsmith and ACT pouring cold water on the idea.
As a government, we don't stop funding people because they disagree with us. That's not how it works. It's always an emotional experience up here. It's a robust environment, but in terms of funding and things that I'm responsible for in justice, it's not about the arguments, it's about getting things done. That's what we're focused on. We want to see results.
Waitangi National Trust Chair Peter Tipene says the pōwhiri ran superbly.
If turning your back quietly is a way of showing your dissatisfaction, well, that is a very low-key way of showing your opposition. I think that the politicians were making a mona out of a little molehill.
The politics wrapped up for the day, but the festivities carried on across the grounds, including the hundreds of kaihui who paddled their waka out in front of Te Tiriti marae, then stood on shore to perform a haka. There are also food stalls, political stalls, clothes stalls and rongoa Māori stalls, concerts, movie nights and camping, and kids doing manus off the bridge.
We are going for a swim at the roof, and we're going to love the bridge.
Do you come to Waitangi every year?
Yeah. Since I was a baby.
Thousands and thousands of people were here across a number of days in the lead up to the 6th of February. The roads are packed and the days are hot.
People coming here, cars are everywhere. How do you manage that?
We just do.
Dawn Burns is running traffic management next to one of the busy intersections near Te Tiriti marae.
So we're only letting the residents in, and the kuia and the kaumatua and the kaimai.
And you've been here for days, has it been hot?
Very hot, very hot. But the people are being beautiful. They'll drop us off water, they'll give us ice creams, drinks, food. They just drop it off. They don't have to, but yeah. It's all manaakitanga,
Why is it important to do this at this time?
Well, the treaty and our tupuna signed it on good faith that we could live together. To be able to get that, like what David Seymour was saying, is equality. This is very important. The Te Tiriti is very important.
She says it's important to welcome people here because this is where the treaty was signed, and it's for that reason many make the trek north. The Prime Minister was criticised this year for not spending Waitangi Day in Waitangi, but he says it's a national day and he wants to move around the country, spending this year with Ngāi Tahu in Akaroa.
There's a place of deep significance, as has been spoken about already, not only for Ngāi Tahu but for our entire nation. Because it is here that the Ngāi Tahu chiefs signed the Treaty of Waitangi 185 years ago, laying the foundation for what was hoped would be a lasting partnership. And here in this very place, my predecessor as Prime Minister, Dame Jenny Shipley, delivered the Crown apology to Ngāi Tahu. And reconciliation has paved the way for the iwi's success, prosperity and cultural revitalisation.
It won't stop him from returning to Waitangi in the future, he says, as did many people this year, and many more will in years to come. The annual dawn service on Waitangi Day has everyone up early, with Ngāpuhi Elder Hone Sadler leading the speaking delegation onto the upper marae. Looking out over Pe Whairangi, or the Bay of Islands, as the sun rises, crowds gather to listen to readings and contributions, poetry recitals and waiata. Here at the place where Te Tiriti o Waitangi was signed. That was Focus on Politics. I'm Lillian Hanly. Thanks for joining us. Mā te wā.